Hello, my friends. Hello. My name is Etan Boritzer. I am the publisher at Veronica Lane Books here in South Florida. Annyeong hashimnika. I don't know a lot of Korean, but I have been to Korea 3 times, and I really love your country and your people. I have been to the Seoul International Book Fair. I think it was 2019, and I've traveled a little bit to Busan and some of the other areas, and I congratulate you on all the good work that you have done in your country, and especially, of course, with the book industry. So today I want to talk to you about the American book market, the publishing environment here in the United States today. I have been publishing books since 1992, so we just passed our 30th year, and I have traveled the world also to all the major book fairs, from the Seoul International Book Fair, Tokyo International Book Fair, Beijing International Book Fair, Guadalajara, Feria de Libros in Guadalajara, Mexico, which is the biggest book fair for Latin America. Of course, the London Book Fair, Frankfurt Book Fair, Bologna Book Fair, and Gothenburg Book Fair, which is the largest in Scandinavia, in Sweden. So I consider myself to be very knowledgeable today about the book industry, of course, in the United States and also around the world. I have sold foreign rights to our children's book series. We have 16 books in the What Is series for children. We have sold those books in 17 foreign languages now. So I have experience, a lot of experience in foreign rights sales also, and of course, selling books here in the U.S. market. So before we go into any market, even if we're just selling apples, right, in the market, we want to see, what is this market? Who are the people who are selling other apples? And what is the best kind of apple to sell? And what is the best way to sell that apple? And then what is the second best apple that is selling in the market? So of course, you're all very professional, and you understand that to enter any market, we have to understand what are the strengths of that market, but also what are the weaknesses in that market. And we have to learn to play to both the strength of that market and also to the weak part of that market. So before I go into some of these strategies for selling books in the US market and selling books in general, I want to give you some facts about the US market. And if you have not done the research, I just have some printout from the Book Industry Study Group. This is the #1 research company in the US that does research on books. First, the US book industry total for last year's sales was $28 billion. I'm not sure what it is in Korea, but I think 28 billion is a good number. We're saying that every year here in the United States, there are 4 million new books coming out. So when I started 30 years ago, we had about 175,000 books only coming out. Today, every year, we have 4 million books, new books in the US. And we are seeing year by year, there is an increase in the number of books that are being sold in this market. Last year, there was an increase of almost 9%, 8.9% more books being sold. So people are reading. I want to discuss also today here in the U.S., we have independent publishers such as ourselves, and also self-publishers, authors who are successful in publishing their own books, either on Kindle, on Ingram Spark, one of those platforms. There are a number of platforms here. And even in the U.S., almost 1 million self-published books are coming out. So, of course, the competition is very big because there are so many books that are being published. And of course, for us as a publisher, even here in the U.S., the question is, how do we get the attention of our population with all that product being out there? Imagine you go to the market and there's 30 people who are selling apples. In other words, there's a lot of apples being sold. So let's look at a few more facts here. The number one category in books that have been sold in the U.S. is, of course, children's books. Children's books make up about 22%, okay, of those 4 million books. All right, then when we take the 4 major publishing houses that you have heard, which is Penguin, Random House, Hachette Livre, HarperCollins, and Macmillan, okay, the total sales from those 4 biggest companies is only $9 billion of the $28 billion, which means there's a lot of room, okay, for smaller and medium publishers to sell books. We're talking that they have only about 35% of that entire U.S. market. Last year, the biggest book that was sold was 2.57 million copies, more than 2.5 million copies, and that was President Obama's book called The Promised Land. So, of course, when you have a famous person and a very popular person who's writing a book, of course, it's going to attract a lot of attention. And just imagine how many children's books would be sold if President Obama decided to write a children's book. So this is one of the challenges that we have in the U.S. market and maybe in the Korean market, that the authors that already have big names, like a president or a movie star or a music star or a famous politician, these people have what we call name recognition. And that's easier to sell, of course, than a first-time author. All right. So let's look at a few more facts, and then I'll talk a little bit more directly about selling the books. All right. And just want to talk about ebooks. Ebooks have not proven to be as lucrative, meaning they have not made as much money as people thought they would. So today, even with the big publishers, ebook revenues are only about 10% of the total revenues of publishers. And the same for us. So we create the ebooks, and sometimes we'll sell them, sometimes we won't. But print books are still 90% of the market. That means people want to hold a book and read it physically, not just on a tablet, right? Okay, so printed book sales reached 750 million units. Remember, I said 400 million new books coming out, but the total number of print books that were sold last year, 750 million books. So I'm sure you have studied your own market and you know what these percentages are, and that helps you to make marketing decisions. Hardbound books, 49%. Okay? Paperback books, 27%. Ebooks, 9.29%. I said 10%. Actually, they have 9.29. Audiobooks, 6.2. Well, so those are some of the general statistics, some of the general facts that I wanted to give you about the U.S. market. And when you are thinking, how can I enter this big market? All right, then we have to have certain strategies. Now, you may have a book that is a bestseller in Korea, but American audiences will need to know, who is that author? Why is that book the bestseller in Korea? And I have to tell you, you probably know, Americans are always concerned with America. So we have to see what relevance or why is your Korean book important to children's market or adult. I failed to mention that the largest category after children's books in the U.S. is fiction. Adult fiction books are the number 2 best-selling after children's books. So if you have an adult fiction book, why is that going to be important to an American audience? And if you come to me and you want to sell me rights to that best-selling Korean book, I'm going to have to think to myself, how am I going to sell this to an American audience? Now, I don't know the number of Koreans in America. We lived before Florida in Los Angeles, and as you know, Los Angeles has the highest percentage of Koreans living outside of Korea. Is in the center of Los Angeles, and if you've been there, you know you feel very comfortable. You drive through the streets, signs are all in Korean, advertising is Korean, there's very few English signs even. Okay, so, but that's a small audience, all right? We have to think, why is this book, why do you want me, the publisher, to purchase the rights to this Korean best-selling book? Because I have to think, how am I going to sell this here in the U.S.? So when you come to me, this is what the conversation, this is what I'm looking for. And we just had a conference with Korean publishers by Zoom, and I was presented with certain books that maybe we could put into our list. But, you know, we're a small company, so we are not purchasing that many rights for Korean or German books or other countries' books, of course. And there's a trend we have found, in selling books in foreign countries, which is getting more and more difficult, especially in China. Our books have been published in China, but because of the new policies, they do not want imported materials in their book industry. They are trying to build a Chinese culture, okay, for their children and for their audience, and to try to prevent the foreign influence. And the same thing as we're going into the slowdown. So how are we going into the recession? The world economy is slowing down, as you know, but there's always opportunity. So how do we create these opportunities? One thing that my company has offered to foreign publishers is to come in and put a little bit of their own money into bringing their books here to the US. So we would take a translated book, let's say a Korean book that's already translated into English, and we have found that we have to edit whatever good English is being used by our Chinese friends or our Japanese friends or our German friends, and make it into the kind of English that we speak in the US and also in the UK and in Canada and in Australia and even Hong Kong. Okay, so we have invited publishers to work with us on specific projects. We had a Russian publisher working with us a few years ago. We produced 3 books and we were able to sell some of them, not a lot, but we were able to sell. We were working with a Japanese company. So it's not that we are buying rights anymore, but we are looking more for partnerships today. So if you want to bring your Korean book, whether it's a children's book or best-selling Korean adult fiction book or adult nonfiction book, then let's discuss how can we work together with a new and a creative formula in bringing these books in, rather than just saying, here's the book, pay us $5,000, $10,000, and good luck. Okay, we cannot operate that way, and no publisher will operate that way. We are looking for partnerships now, and even with our American authors, we have to look at how many followers do you have on Facebook, or how many followers do you have on Instagram or on Twitter. So we need the author to help partner with us to sell her book, okay? And this is more what the mentality today has to be like. More into partnership rather than just purchase and walk away. And there are different ways that we can sell books then, okay? Even if it's a Korean author that we are introducing, or a Korean children's book series that we are introducing here in the US, we might start, okay, with the Korean market even. We might start with bilingual editions, Korean, English, children's book, okay? Or English translation of a best-selling Korean book. Then we look at the category. Maybe it's a woman's story, okay? Maybe it's about domestic violence. A woman's story in Korea, South Korea, of domestic violence. And that is a big issue in our country. So it might be interesting for American women to look at that subject. So we have to be very creative today. Is where is that book directed? All right? Because yes, we could put the book on Amazon, of course. We could put the book on Barnes & Noble, of course. But you still have to bring the reader to the book. So how are we going to do that? You see, this is what we have been very creative at doing, going into markets that most other publishers aren't even aware of. I'll give you one example, Montessori. If you're aware of Montessori schools, and there are many, many Montessori schools in Korea, but they're in India too, and they're in China, and of course in the US and in South America. So we take a book and we look, maybe that's good for our Montessori market. So we have to be very creative, I have said that, in thinking together, in partnership, what can we further do? And then the subject comes, how about your company looking at our books and our best-selling series, which I told you about, the What Is series, and seeing how would that fit into the Korean market? And what else can we do? Because we, just for example, we have 16 books of a series, and we're now talking to Netflix and to Amazon Prime to produce those 16 books as an animation series for TV. So what about this? If we were involved with a Korean publisher, book publisher, who was interested in the series, we could also offer the rights to sell that series to a Korean TV producer of animation. Now, if you, the Korean book publisher, has to think that way, which we call in America out of the box. Okay, there's a box, but you have to think outside the box. All right, most people are thinking only in that area. So we're offering, look at the series. Maybe you have a connection in other media, and you can think further, saying if we publish these books and we get a TV animation series based on the books, how many more books are we going to sell? Okay, so even when you come to me and you say, we have a series of 16 books and we think this series could be made into an animation, TV animation, then we will think about it in those terms too. And of course there's merchandise, and we are going to think about, maybe we could do a plush toy with that. Maybe we could do a game with that. Maybe we could do an app. So we are always thinking outside of just the book publishing box. All right? Now think about the Disney company. The Disney company started, right, to produce animation. Then what did they do? They decided to create amusement parks based around the characters in their books, in their animation. Then what did they do? Then they created cruise lines, okay? The Mickey Mouse cruise lines. and that way, they have been continuously thinking outside of the box. And of course, they have published their own books, which are best-selling. Then they have gone to Broadway, okay, and they have created theatrical versions of the film. So why can only Mr. Disney and his company think outside the box? All right, with that one product, that book, okay, that series, what else can we do? And this is what is important when dealing with Americans. And maybe you understand this, And I'm not a nationalist, but I want to say, when you think about it, okay, who invented the internet? Who invented the chip, the microchip? Who invented GPS? Who invented TV, radio, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Facebook, Instagram? I said I'm not a nationalist, but these are facts, that it is the Americans who have always been, at least in the last 125 years, the most creative people on the planet, okay? Why? Because they have what is called the can-do attitude. Can-do, C-A-N-D-O. I can do it. And we have a British distributor in the UK, in London, and I was trying to help them to sell more of our books and to sell more of their books. And I made some suggestions to my friend who's the distributor also, and it's a very big distribution company called Deep Books. And she was telling me, Etan, your ideas are great, but you have to understand, you Americans, you have a can-do attitude. We British, we have a can't-do attitude. In other words, we will tell you every reason why we can't do that. That's the difference. So when you come into the American market, you must have can-do attitude. You must think outside the box. And I will help you do it. Okay? I know that Koreans are creative people too. But it's a different culture. Remember, it's a different Asian culture is about the family. It's about the community. We call it Confucius, the Chinese wise man. I don't know how you say it in Korean, Confucius, which is about society is first. Family is first. And that's beautiful. That's very good. American attitude is individual is first. That could be bad and that could be good. And Confucius can be bad and can be good. But when you're in business, okay, then you must be creative and have the can-do attitude and think outside the box. And that's where success is. Think about it. There was never a Facebook, okay, before somebody thought about Facebook. There was not a social media before somebody thought about social media. They thought outside the box. So when you come and you communicate with me, you know our company, Veronica Lane Books, Veronica Lane Books. You come to our website, my contact information is there also. And let's put our heads together, okay, and come up with a creative way, a can-do way to sell a lot of books. Okay, my friends, thank you very much. I'm not. Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you.